Executor Zalmoth stood before the assembled council fleet commanders, his ancient face showing the strain of a decision that would determine the fate of galactic civilization. Through the viewing ports of his flagship, he could see the largest armada ever assembled, 3,000 warships representing the combined military might of dozens of worlds. "The primitives have made their demands," he announced to the gathering. "They want us to surrender everything we have built over 3 millennia. They want us to submit to their judgment like conquered subjects." Fleet Admiral Korvash leaned forward in his chair. "Sir, perhaps we should consider their terms. Our intelligence report suggests their military capabilities are far beyond what we initially assessed." "No." Zalmoth's voice echoed through the chamber. "We are the Galactic Council. We do not negotiate with primitives, no matter what tricks they may have learned. We have ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years, and we will continue to rule it." "But sir," another commander spoke hesitantly, "they have fleets surrounding our homeworlds. Then we will destroy their fleets and burn their worlds to ash. Signal all units, we advance on Sol system immediately. When we are finished, Earth will be a lifeless rock, and the galaxy will remember why the Council is not to be challenged." The massive fleet began moving toward Earth. Confident in their overwhelming numbers and technological superiority, they had conquered countless worlds, eliminated dozens of species, and never faced serious resistance. In their minds, humanity was simply another primitive species that needed to be reminded of their place in the galactic order. They could not have been more wrong. Admiral Seung Min Bay stood on the bridge of his flagship as the Council Armada approached Sol system. Around him, displays showed the enemy fleet in perfect detail, their ship classes, weapons configurations, and tactical formations. Human intelligence had been studying Council military doctrine for centuries, and they knew exactly how this battle would unfold. "Sir," Commander Misun Ko reported, "enemy fleet will be in weapons range in 30 minutes. They are maintaining standard attack formation." Seung Min nodded. The Council was approaching exactly as their tactical manuals dictated, following patterns that human strategists had analyzed and prepared to counter decades ago. "Signal all ships," he ordered. "Begin Operation Liberation." Across the Sol system, human fleets that had remained hidden began revealing themselves. What the Council scouts had seen before was impressive, but it was only a fraction of humanity's true strength. Hundreds more warships decloaked from asteroid fields emerged from behind moons and rose from the surfaces of planets where they had been concealed. Admiral Ji-Hoon An, commanding the Tactical Coordination Center buried deep beneath Luna, watched as his carefully planned battle unfolded. Every human ship knew exactly where to be, exactly when to strike, and exactly how to exploit the weaknesses that 3 centuries of study had revealed in Council military technology. "Phase 1 complete," he announced. "All units are in position. Council fleet is surrounded." The Council advance guard suddenly found themselves facing not the small human defense force they expected, but a massive fleet that outnumbered their own scouts 10 to 1. Weapons designed specifically to counter Council technology opened fire with devastating precision. Council ships, built to overwhelm primitive defenses through brute force, discovered that their armor provided little protection against weapons that had been designed to exploit every weak point in their construction. Human plasma cannons cut through alien hulls like knives through paper, while quantum torpedoes phased through energy shields as if they did not exist. "Impossible," Admiral Korvash shouted as his instruments showed Council ships being destroyed faster than his sensors could track. "How can primitives possess such advanced weapons?" His question was answered when the main human fleet arrived. Captain Eugene Seo, commanding the Dreadnought Liberator, watched as Executor Zalmoth's flagship tried desperately to maintain formation as its escort vessels were systematically eliminated around it. "Executor Zalmoth," she broadcast on all frequencies, "this is Captain Seo of the Human Commonwealth Navy. You are surrounded and outnumbered. Surrender now and your crews will be treated according to the laws of war." "Never," came the reply. "The Council does not surrender to primitives." "Then you will share the fate of all tyrants," Eugene said calmly. "All ships engage at will." The battle was less a fight than a demonstration. Human ships moved with precision that made Council formations look clumsy, struck with weapons that made alien technology seem outdated, and coordinated with tactical awareness that revealed centuries of careful preparation. But the most shocking revelation came when the human fleet was joined by ships crewed by species the Council had thought extinct the vengeance of Kralthon emerged from stealth, alongside human dreadnoughts. Its crew the survivors of a species the Council had eliminated 50 years earlier. The last hope of Velnara opened fire with weapons that combined the best of their ancient technology with human innovations. Across the battlefield, dozens of ships crewed by extinct species struck back at their former oppressors. Earth had not just been building a human fleet in secret. They had been giving refuge and support to every survivor of Council genocide they could find. "By the Ancient Ones," whispered a Council communications officer, "the dead have returned to judge us." Executor Zalmoth watched in growing horror as his invincible armada was systematically destroyed by enemies who should not have existed. His own flagship shuddered under impacts from weapons that bypassed every defensive system the Council possessed. "Sir," his aide reported, "we have lost 70% of the fleet. The survivors are requesting permission to withdraw." "No withdrawal," Zalmoth screamed. "We cannot lose to primitives. We are the masters of the galaxy." But the galaxy had other ideas. Admiral Wu Jinhan, monitoring the battle from his command post on Earth, activated the transmission systems that would broadcast humanity's message to every world in Council space. The same evidence that had been presented to the Council chamber now reached every civilian population, every slave species, every resistance movement that had been waiting for this moment. "People of the galaxy," his voice carried across the stars, "today marks the end of the Council's reign of terror. For 3,000 years you have been told that the Council protects and guides developing species. Today you learn the truth. They have been systematically eliminating any species that refuses to submit to their control." The message included not just accusations, but proof. Recorded conversations between Council leaders planning genocides, technical specifications for planet-killing weapons, lists of extinct species with detailed documentation of how and why they were eliminated. But today, Wu Jin continued, the survivors of all those lost civilizations stand together. Earth has provided sanctuary for refugees from across the galaxy, and together we have built a force capable of ending the Council's oppression forever. On worlds throughout Council space, the broadcast triggered simultaneous uprisings. Species that had been enslaved for generations rose against their oppressors. Resistance movements that had been hiding in the shadows emerged to strike at Council installations. The galaxy erupted in revolution as the truth about the Council's crimes spread like wildfire. Back in Sol system, the battle was reaching its conclusion. Executor Zalmoth's flagship, the Eternal Dominion, drifted powerless and burning as human boarding parties prepared to take it. Around it, the wreckage of the Council's grand fleet served as a monument to the price of tyranny. Captain Bo-Ra Lim led the boarding party that finally reached the Council's bridge. She found Zalmoth slumped in his command chair, staring at displays that showed the collapse of everything he had spent his life building. "It is over," she said simply. "How?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "We were the masters. We controlled everything. You controlled nothing," Bo-Ra replied. "You ruled through fear and deception, but you never understood the most important truth about intelligent species. Eventually, they fight back." She gestured to the screens showing reports from across the galaxy. Council worlds were surrendering or being liberated. Enslaved species were declaring independence. The entire structure of galactic oppression was crumbling as the truth spread. "Earth was never forbidden because we were primitive," Bo-Ra continued. "It was forbidden because you feared what we might become if left alone to develop. You were right to fear us, but not for the reasons you imagined." "What will you do with us?" Zalmoth asked. "What we should have done from the beginning. You will face trial for your crimes. Every species you eliminated, every world you destroyed, every life you ended in the name of galactic order. Justice will finally be served." 6 months later, Director Bo-Ra Lim stood in the chambers of the newly formed Galactic Liberation Authority on the former Council homeworld. Through the windows, she could see ships from dozens of species working together to build something the galaxy had never known. A truly free, interstellar civilization. "Director," her aide Subin Park announced, "the final count is complete. We have confirmed survivors from 43 species the Council claimed to have eliminated. Reconstruction efforts are underway on 67 worlds." The Great Council Chamber on SciFiPrime had hosted the representatives of galactic civilization for over 3,000 years. Its massive halls had echoed with the voices of species from across the galaxy as they debated policy, trade agreements, and the careful management of primitive worlds. But today, something unprecedented was about to occur. Ambassador Jae-hyuk Kim materialized in the center of the chamber as a hologram, his image transmitted from Earth across impossible distances, without using any known council communication technology. The assembled representatives fell silent, not because they recognized him, but because his presence here was impossible. Honored council members, Jae-hyuk began in perfect galactic standard. I am Ambassador Jae-hyuk Kim, official representative of the human commonwealth. Executor Zalmoth rose from his ornate chair, his ancient face showing confusion and anger. This is impossible. Humans do not possess holographic transmission technology. Your species barely understands basic electronics. Jae-hyuk smiled with the confidence of someone who had been waiting centuries for this moment. We understand many things, Executor. Far more than you have allowed yourselves to believe. Guards, Zalmoth called. Shut down this transmission. Technical specialists rushed to their control panels, but nothing they did could interrupt the signal. The human ambassador's image remained stable and clear, broadcast using technology that made their most advanced systems look primitive. You cannot stop this transmission because it does not depend on your communication networks, Jae-hyuk explained calmly. We have been listening to your conversations, reading your files, and watching your actions for 300 years. We know about the assassination teams. We know about Project Cleanse. Most importantly, we know about the genocide. The chamber erupted in confused voices as representatives from dozens of species demanded explanations. Many had never heard of Project Cleanse or the systematic elimination of non-compliant civilizations. Jae-hyuk raised his hand for silence. For the benefit of those who are unaware, allow me to present evidence of the Council's true nature. The air around him filled with holographic displays, showing classified Council documents, recordings of secret meetings, and tactical plans for the extermination of hundreds of species. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable, and presented with a level of detail that could only have come from sources deep within the Council's inner circles. The species listed here, Jae-hyuk continued, were all declared extinct after refusing Council guidance. In reality, they were systematically murdered by Velthari assassination teams and orbital bombardment. Representative Canthor of the Melody Federation stood shakily. This cannot be true. The Council protects developing species. The Council enslaves developing species, Jae-hyuk corrected. Those who submit become subjects. Those who resist become memories. Zalmoth's voice carried the authority of millennia. Even if these accusations were true, what can one primitive world do against the might of galactic civilization? Your species has no fleet, no weapons, no allies. You are wrong on all counts, Jae-hyuk replied. Observe. The holographic displays shifted to show real-time images from across the galaxy. Council worlds found themselves surrounded by fleets that had appeared from nowhere. Ships that moved with technologies beyond anything in the Council's databases. On SciFiPrime, Admiral Hai Wan Choi commanded a battle group of human dreadnoughts that had materialized in orbit without warning. The planet's defense systems were completely helpless against stealth technology that made entire fleets invisible until they chose to reveal themselves. People of Velthari, she broadcast, to the planet below. You are surrounded. Power down your weapons and prepare to receive inspection teams. Any resistance will result in the complete neutralization of your military capabilities. The same scene played out around dozens of Council worlds. Human fleets, supported by ships crewed by species thought extinct, had positioned themselves at every major population center in Council space. Back in the Council chamber, the assembled representatives watched in stunned silence as their supposedly invincible civilization found itself at the mercy of the primitives they had dismissed. How is this possible? Whispered Councillor Enthrak. We have been preparing, Jae-hyuk said simply. For 3 centuries, while you believed us to be primitive farmers, we have been building alliances with the survivors of your campaigns. Every species you thought you had eliminated left refugees who found sanctuary on Earth. Every world you conquered had resistance movements that we supported and supplied. You created the very coalition that now surrounds you. Admiral Seungmin Bae, commanding the human fleet and Sol system, watched the Council's reaction through quantum encrypted communications. His ships remained hidden behind their stealth systems, But the massive Council armada approaching Earth would soon discover that their target was not the helpless world they expected. "Sir," Commander Mi-sun Ko reported, "Council advanced scouts are 3 days out. They are detecting massive energy readings from Earth orbit." "Let them see what they came to destroy," Shungmin ordered. "Drop stealth." Around Earth, space suddenly filled with the largest concentration of military power in galactic history. Hundreds of human warships decloaked simultaneously, their hulls gleaming with armor that could deflect Council weapons and bristling with weapons that could crack planets. The Council scouts, expecting to find a primitive world defended by crude rockets and basic energy shields, instead found themselves facing a fleet that dwarfed anything they had ever seen. "Impossible," the lead scout captain whispered, as his instruments failed to catalog the full extent of human military strength. "The readings are off our scales. These ships are generating more power than our entire battle fleet." In the Council chamber, Executor Zalmoth watched the displays with growing horror as reports flooded in from across Council space. Every major world was surrounded, every fleet was outnumbered, and the primitive species they had dismissed was demonstrating technology that challenged everything they thought they knew about galactic civilization. "What do you want?" he asked finally. Jae-hyuk's expression became hard as steel. "The immediate cessation of all Council expansion, the release of all enslaved species, the establishment of an independent authority to investigate and prosecute war crimes, and the complete dismantling of your apparatus of oppression. And if we refuse, then you will join the history of species that chose extinction over freedom." The ultimatum hung in the air like a sword over the assembled Council. For 3,000 years they had been the hunters, the masters, the arbiters of life and death for entire civilizations. Now for the first time they found themselves as prey. "You have 72 hours to respond," Jae-hyuk announced. "After that, humanity and its allies will take whatever action we deem necessary to ensure that no species ever again faces the choice between slavery and death." The hologram flickered and vanished, leaving the Council chamber in stunned silence. Outside, through the great windows that offered a view of SciFiPrime's night sky, new stars had appeared. Human warships, no longer hiding their presence, orbited the Council homeworld like silent angels of judgment. Executor Zalmoth collapsed into his chair. The weight of 3 millennia of absolute power suddenly revealed as an illusion. The primitive world they had quarantined, to prevent its dangerous development, had used that isolation to become something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. A force that could challenge the very foundations of galactic civilization, and in 72 hours they would have their answer. The Council exploration ship Eternal Wisdom drifted through space near the edge of what their maps showed as an empty system. Captain Morthak had been ordered to investigate strange energy readings detected by long-range sensors, readings that suggested possible technology in supposedly uninhabited space. "Sir," his scanner operator reported, "I am detecting artificial structures ahead." Morthak studied the display with growing confusion. The readings showed not just structures, but an entire planetary civilization complete with orbital platforms, defense stations, and what appeared to be a massive fleet construction facility. "That is impossible," he said. "Our records show this system has been empty for over 2,000 years. But as they moved closer, the truth became undeniable. They had found New Busan, humanity's most secret colony, and it was everything the Council had never wanted to discover. The human settlement was beautiful in a way that no Council world had ever achieved. Instead of the rigid geometric patterns that marked alien cities, New Busan flowed with organic curves that seemed to grow naturally from the planet's surface. Parks and gardens were woven throughout the urban areas, creating a harmony between technology and nature that spoke of a completely different approach to civilization. "Sir, we are being scanned," the communications officer announced. "Multiple sources, very sophisticated technology." Before Morthak could respond, his ship shuddered as something locked onto them with tractor beams far more powerful than anything in Council fleets. The Eternal Wisdom was pulled toward the planet despite his crew's desperate attempts to break free. "Send a distress signal," Morthak ordered. "Priority Alpha. Tell the Council we have found something they need to know about." The message never reached its destination. Colonel Sang-woo Park, commanding New Busan's defense grid from his hidden control center, made sure of that. "Intercept complete," he reported to his staff. The council ship is secure. What about survivors? Major Bo Young Choi asked. There will be no survivors. This discovery dies here. The alien crew fought bravely as human boarding parties took control of their vessel, but they were facing warriors who had studied every aspect of council military doctrine for centuries. Within an hour, the Eternal Wisdom was empty except for its new human crew, but the damage was done. The ship had been missing for long enough that the council would eventually investigate, and when they did, they would find evidence that would shatter everything they believed about humanity. On Earth, in the war room buried beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Dayun Seo received the report she had been dreading for decades. "Ma'am," Captain Young-Soo Lim announced, "New Busan reports that their location has been compromised. A council exploration ship discovered the colony. Were there any transmissions?" "Negative. Colonel Park's people intercepted all communications, but the ship will be missed." Dayun studied the tactical displays showing council fleet movements throughout the galaxy. 3 massive battle groups were already moving toward human space, and now they would have reason to accelerate their timeline. "Signal Admiral Lee," she ordered. "It is time to drop the pretense." Across human space, the order was received and acknowledged. On hidden bases and secret colonies and underground facilities and orbital shipyards, humanity began to reveal what they had built during 3 centuries of apparent isolation. Admiral Dong Hyun, Lee emerged from the shadows where Earth's true military leadership had remained hidden since first contact with the Council. As he took command of the defense grid orbiting Earth, massive ships began decloaking throughout the Sol system. The concealment had been perfect. Where Council sensors had detected only empty space and primitive satellites, hundreds of human warships had been waiting in perfect stealth. Each vessel represented technology that pushed the boundaries of what the galaxy thought was possible. "All ships report ready," Commander Sung-hee, Yu announced from her position aboard the flagship Indomitable. Dong Hyun nodded as he watched the tactical displays fill with friendly contacts. "Begin Phase 2. It is time to show them what humans do when we stop pretending to be helpless." Dr. Min-Soo Hong stood in his laboratory, reviewing the final pieces of evidence that humanity had been gathering for centuries. As Earth's chief xenobiologist, he had spent decades studying not just alien species, but the pattern of their extinction following Council uplift programs. "The data is undeniable," he told the assembled military leaders via holographic conference. "Every species that refused Council assimilation was systematically eliminated. We are not the first world they have tried to control through deception, but we may be the first to survive it." Admiral Da-Yoon leaned forward in her chair. "How many species have they destroyed?" "Over 400 confirmed extinctions. Probably twice that number if we include worlds that vanished without leaving records." Min-Soo's voice carried the weight of documenting genocide on a galactic scale. "The Council's expansion has been built on the bones of civilizations that refused to surrender their independence." "And the survivors?" "That is the remarkable part. We have found refugees from 37 supposedly extinct species living in hidden communities throughout human space. They have been waiting centuries for someone strong enough to challenge the Council's dominance." The revelation stunned even the most optimistic human planners. Earth had not just been building a military force in secret. They had been assembling the greatest alliance of free peoples in galactic history. Commander Yejin Kang, head of Earth Defense Intelligence, stood to address the group. "Our deep cover agents have confirmed that the Council is mobilizing everything for a final assault on Sol system. They believe they are facing a primitive species that got lucky against a few assassination teams." "How long do we have?" Dayun asked. 3 weeks, maybe 4. "But Admiral, there is something else. Our agents have discovered that the Council has been using the same tactics against dozens of other worlds. They create artificial quarantines, manipulate development, then eliminate any species that shows signs of becoming a threat. We are not just fighting for Earth," Dong Hyun realized. "We are fighting for every species that wants to remain free." The weight of that responsibility settled over the room like a heavy blanket. Humanity had stumbled into a war not just for their own survival, but for the future of freedom throughout the galaxy. On the hidden world of New Sol, Captain Jae-Sung Kim watched the final preparations for humanity's most audacious plan. The planet's entire surface was covered with massive transmitter arrays, devices capable of broadcasting across the entire galaxy simultaneously. "Sir," Lieutenant Soo-Jin Park reported, "all arrays are synchronized and ready." Begin the final upload, Jae-sung ordered. Every piece of evidence we have gathered, every document we have stolen, every record of council atrocities. When we broadcast this, there will be no more secrets. The information that began flowing into the transmission arrays represented 3 centuries of careful intelligence gathering. Human agents had documented the council's crimes in meticulous detail, building an unshakable case that would reveal the truth about galactic civilization to every world capable of receiving it. But first, they had to survive long enough to send it back on Earth. As the final defensive preparations were completed, Admiral Da-Yoon Seo stood before a gathering of humanity's greatest leaders. Military commanders, scientific advisors, intelligence chiefs, and diplomatic specialists filled the secure conference room. In 3 weeks, she began, the masquerade ends. The council will arrive expecting to find primitives armed with crude weapons. Instead, they will face the combined might of every free species in the galaxy. She touched a control, and the holographic display filled with images of the fleet that humanity had built in secret. Hundreds of ships, each one a masterpiece of engineering that incorporated lessons learned from studying alien technology while adding innovations that alien minds could never have conceived. We are not fighting just for Earth, Da-Yoon continued. We are fighting for the right of every species to choose its own destiny. The Council has ruled through fear and deception for too long. It is time to show them what happens when free peoples unite against tyranny. The room erupted in quiet but determined approval. Humanity had spent 3 centuries preparing for this moment, building not just weapons and ships but alliances and hope. Soon, the galaxy would discover that the forbidden world had been forbidden for a very different reason than anyone had imagined, and the Council was about to learn why some quarantines should never be broken. Council Executor Zalmoth stood before the great viewing window of his chamber, watching the lights of 1,000 worlds spread across the galaxy. Each light represented a civilization under Council control, species that had been uplifted and guided into proper development, all except one small blue world that continued to resist their guidance. Executor, his aide Velkaran entered the chamber. The reports from Sol System have arrived, finally. How many human targets were eliminated? Velkaran hesitated. None, sir. All assassination teams have gone silent. Zalmoth turned slowly, his ancient face showing the first cracks of concern. Silent? What do you mean, silent? No communication for 3 weeks. Their ships returned to the rendezvous points empty. No crew, no bodies, no explanation. Equipment failure. 12 separate teams, sir. Using different technology, different entry points, different targets. The probability of simultaneous equipment failure is essentially 0. Zalmoth moved to his desk, calling up holographic displays of Earth. The planet looked exactly as it had for centuries. Blue oceans, white clouds, primitive energy signatures scattered across the continents. Nothing suggested advanced military capability. Perhaps the humans are more observant than we believed, he said finally. Primitive species sometimes develop enhanced survival instincts. Sir, Velkaran spoke carefully, there is another possibility. Speak. What if they are not primitive? The silence that followed filled the chamber like ice. In 3,000 years of Council expansion, no species had ever successfully hidden their true development level. The idea was impossible, unthinkable. Prepare Project Cleanse, Zalmoth said quietly. If we cannot control humanity's development, we will end it. On Centauri Prime, So-Young Kim walked through the diplomatic quarter, her simple aide uniform making her invisible among the bustling crowds of alien bureaucrats. She had spent 15 years building her cover, learning council languages and customs, becoming someone they would never suspect. Her contact waited in a small cafe overlooking the government district. To anyone watching, they were just 2 low-level employees sharing lunch. But Jina Oh had sacrificed 20 years of her life to reach her current position in the Council's inner circles, and the information she carried could save or doom humanity. They know something is wrong, Jina said without looking up from her food. Zalmoth has authorized planetary sterilization if they cannot maintain control. So-Young felt her blood turn cold. When? Soon. They are assembling the largest fleet in Council history. Every warship, every battle station, everything they have. Jinna's voice carried the weight of years spent watching alien cruelty. They plan to turn Earth into a dead rock floating in space. Can you delay them? I can try, but my position is compromised. They are starting to suspect that some of their failures might be caused by internal sabotage. Gina finally looked up, her eyes showing the strain of decades spent living among humanity's enemies. This will be my last report. So Young nodded, understanding the sacrifice her friend was making. It will not be wasted. That night, So Young transmitted the most important message in human history, hidden within routine diplomatic correspondence, encoded in ways that would take the Council centuries to decode. The warning raced toward Earth at faster than light speed. On the hidden world of New Busan, Colonel Tae Jin-yoon stood in the command center of humanity's most secret military base. Around him, holographic displays showed the construction progress of the Shadow Fleet, humanity's answer to the Council's overwhelming numbers. Sir, Lieutenant Haewon Park approached with the latest intelligence summary. Earth Command reports that the Council is mobilizing everything. Tae-jin studied the fleet composition streaming across his screens. 3,000 Council warships, each capable of destroying continents, all headed for Sol System. It was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. How many ships do we have ready? He asked. 200 dreadnoughts completed, another 50 in final testing. The new destroyer squadrons are still 3 months from operational status. Tae-jin did the mathematics in his head. 250 human ships against 3,000 alien vessels. The odds were impossible, but that had never stopped humanity before. Signal Admiral Seung-min Bae, he ordered. Tell him it is time to reveal what we have built. Deep in the asteroid fields beyond Pluto, Admiral Seung-min Bae received the message aboard his flagship, the ship that would soon be known throughout the galaxy as humanity's answer to impossible odds. Around him, the Shadow Fleet powered up systems that had been tested in absolute secrecy for decades. Each human ship was built using knowledge gained from studying captured Council technology, improved with innovations that alien minds could never have conceived. Where Council ships relied on brute force and overwhelming numbers, human vessels used speed, stealth, and weapons designed to exploit every weakness in alien defenses. All ships report ready, Commander Mi-sun Ko announced from her station. Signal Earth Command, Seung-min ordered. The Shadow Fleet is operational. On Earth, in the depths of the Pacific Command Center, Admiral Da-yoon Seo received confirmation that humanity's greatest gamble was finally ready to be tested. For 3 centuries, Earth had maintained the pretense of being primitive while secretly building the most advanced military force the galaxy had ever seen. Ma'am, Captain Young-soo Lim approached with another report. Our deep cover agents report that the Council fleet will reach Sol System in 6 weeks. And our colony worlds? All evacuation protocols are in place. If we fail, our people will survive to continue the fight. Da-yoon nodded, but her expression showed grim determination rather than despair. Humanity had not spent 3 centuries preparing for this moment only to plan for defeat. Send word to all our allies, she ordered. It is time to reveal the truth about Earth's quarantine. Across the galaxy, on worlds the Council believed they had conquered completely, secret human agents began activating networks that had been dormant for decades. Species that had been thought extinct emerged from hidden refuges. Resistance movements that had been gathering strength in the shadows prepared to strike. The Council had made one crucial mistake in their campaign of galactic conquest. They had assumed that destroyed species left no survivors, that broken civilizations could never rebuild. But Earth had been collecting refugees for centuries, offering sanctuary to anyone who could reach Sol System. Now, as the Council assembled its fleet for humanity's destruction, they would discover that the primitive humans had been building something far more dangerous than advanced weapons. They had been building hope. Dr. Woo Jin, Han stood in his laboratory beneath the mountains of Korea, putting the finishing touches on humanity's final surprise. The quantum communication network that connected Earth to every human colony, every secret base, every hidden fleet would ensure that no matter what happened to the homeworld, humanity's message would reach every species in the galaxy. Doctor, his assistant Kyung-soo Shin announced, the transmission array is ready. Good. When the time comes, make sure our message reaches every world simultaneously. The Council has controlled galactic communications too long. It is time for the truth to be heard. As the final preparations were made across human space, one fact became clear to everyone involved. The masquerade that had protected Earth for 3 centuries was about to end. Soon the galaxy would know exactly what humanity had become during their long isolation, and the Council was going to regret ever learning that Earth was more than they had believed possible. Kethavar moved through the soul streets like a ghost, his advanced armor bending light around his body. He was the best assassin the Velthari had ever trained, and his mission was simple: eliminate the human scientists who threatened the galaxy's order. His target tonight was Dr. Sora Park, a biochemist whose research could lead to dangerous medical advances. The Council's files said she worked alone in a small laboratory, guarded only by basic human security systems. As Kethavar approached the building, his scanners detected something unusual. The laboratory's power readings were too low, too controlled. Most primitive facilities leaked energy in wasteful patterns, but this place seemed designed to hide its true capabilities. He entered through a window on the 3rd floor, his movements silent as death. The hallways were dark and empty, exactly what he expected from a simple research facility. But his warrior instincts, honed over centuries of killing, told him something was wrong. The laboratory door stood open, warm light spilling into the corridor. Kethavar could see a human female working at a desk, her back turned to the entrance. Dr. Park, alone and unaware, just as intelligence had promised. He stepped into the room and activated his weapon. Dr. Park. The woman turned, and Kethavar saw immediately that this was not the person in the Council's files. This human was younger, stronger, with eyes that showed no fear. "I am Yoonji Kim," she said calmly. "Dr. Park is not here tonight. Where is she?" Kethavar demanded, but his tactical mind was already analyzing the situation. "This was a trap." "Safe," Yoonji replied. "Just like all the other scientists you have been hunting." The walls around the laboratory suddenly lit up with hidden displays showing tactical information. The primitive equipment dissolved into holographic projections, revealing technology that made Kethavar's advanced gear look simple. "You have been studying us for a long time," Yoonji continued, stepping closer. "Learning our weaknesses, planning our deaths. But did you ever wonder if we were studying you too?" Kethavar fired his weapon, but the energy beam passed harmlessly through empty air. The human had moved faster than his enhanced vision could track, using techniques no primitive species should possess. "Impossible," he said, spinning to find his target. "Humans cannot move that quickly. We learned from watching your kind hunt our people." Yoonji's voice came from everywhere at once. 300 years of secret observation teaches many lessons. The laboratory exploded into chaos as more Velthari assassins entered the building. They had been waiting outside, ready to support their leader if needed. But now they found themselves in corridors that shifted and changed, walls that moved like living things, and enemies that struck from shadows before vanishing again. Tai Wu Zhang emerged from the darkness behind 2 Velthari, his hands moving with deadly precision. The aliens had time for one surprised cry before falling silent. Their advanced armor, designed to stop energy weapons and projectiles, provided no protection against techniques developed specifically to counter their technology. "Report," Kethavar spoke into his communicator. "How many humans are we facing?" Only silence answered him. On Centauri Prime, the Galactic Council's homeworld, So-Young Kim sat in a small office reviewing diplomatic files. To everyone around her, she was a junior aide, barely worth noticing. The council members who passed her desk each day never suspected that she was humanity's most important spy. Her computer chimed softly with an incoming message from Earth. Another Velthari team had gone silent. This was the 6th group in 2 months, and the council was starting to ask dangerous questions. She deleted the message and began composing her daily report, hiding coded information within routine diplomatic language. The council needed to believe that their assassins were simply having technical difficulties, not being systematically eliminated by primitive humans. Executor Nalthak stopped at her desk, his tall form casting a shadow over her work. "Has there been any word from the Sol System teams?" So-Young looked up with the perfect expression of confused concern. "Sir, I have not received any recent reports. Should I contact the communication center?" "No," Nalthak said after a moment. "Perhaps their equipment is malfunctioning. The humans' electromagnetic fields can be troublesome." "Of course, sir. Primitive worlds often have such problems." After he left, So-Young allowed herself a small smile, If only the Council knew that Earth's electromagnetic problems were actually the most sophisticated jamming systems in the galaxy. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Da Unseo reviewed the night's battle reports in her hidden command center. Every screen showed the same result: complete success. The Velthari teams had been eliminated without a single human casualty. Admiral, Captain Young-Soo Lim approached her station. The prisoners are ready for questioning. Prisoners? Dayun turned in surprise. I ordered no survivors. Chang Ho-no managed to capture one before the final assault. He thought you might want to question it personally. Dayun followed Young-Soo to a secure interrogation room where a Velthari assassin sat restrained by energy fields. The alien looked up as she entered, his black eyes showing the first emotion she had ever seen from his species: confusion. You are not what we expected, the prisoner said in broken Korean. We know, Daeun replied. The question is, what are you going to tell your council about us? Nothing. I will die before betraying my mission. Your mission is already over. Your teams are dead, your targets are safe, and your superiors will assume you simply disappeared like all the others. Dayun sat across from the alien. But I am curious about something. How long has the Council been sending assassins to primitive worlds? The Velthari's eyes widened slightly. You know about the other worlds? We know many things. We know about the species you have eliminated. We know about the worlds you have sterilized. We know about the lies you tell about natural development. For the first time in his long life, the assassin felt something he had never experienced before: fear. Not for his own death, but for what this primitive species might become if they already knew so much. Back in Seoul, Yoonji Kim stood among the wreckage of what had been the most advanced assassination team the Council had ever assembled. 6 Velthari warriors, trained from birth to kill, lay motionless around her. She spoke into her communicator. Control, this is Night 7. Package delivered. All guests have checked out. Copy that. Night 7. Cleanup team is en route. Within minutes, human technicians arrive to study the alien equipment and remove all traces of the battle. Every weapon, every piece of armor, every drop of alien blood would be analyzed and cataloged. Knowledge was humanity's greatest weapon, and they had been gathering it for centuries. Yoonji looked at the Velthari leader's body and felt no satisfaction in his death. These assassins were just tools, following orders from masters who saw genocide as policy. The real enemy sat in comfortable chambers on distant worlds, making decisions that destroyed entire civilizations. But that would change soon. Across the city, Jin Woo received the all-clear signal and began broadcasting false reports to Council monitoring stations. As far as alien intelligence knew, Earth remained a quiet, primitive world where nothing interesting ever happened. The assassination teams had simply experienced equipment failures in the planet's troublesome magnetic field. By morning, new probes would arrive to investigate the silence. They would find exactly what they expected: simple humans going about their daily lives, completely unaware that advanced aliens walked among them. The masquerade would continue, buying Earth more time to prepare for the war that everyone knew was coming. Because while the Council saw humanity as insects to be managed, the insects had been building something in the dark corners of space that would soon change everything. Commander Daeho Kim floated in the darkness of space, his stealth ship invisible against the black void. He watched the alien probe move slowly toward Earth, its strange blue lights blinking as it scanned for signs of life. This was the 3rd probe this month, and each one carried the same deadly cargo. Daeho touched his communication device. Control, this is Shadow 1. The package has arrived. Copy that. Shadow 1. Let them land as planned, came the reply from Earth. The probe was larger than the others, carrying at least 6 Velthari assassins inside. The Velthari were the Galactic Council's best killers, sent to eliminate humans who might make Earth advance too quickly. The Council believed Earth was still a primitive world, filled with simple farmers and basic scientists. They had no idea how wrong they were. Daeho smiled as he watched the probe enter Earth's atmosphere. Down below, his people were ready. In the mountains of Korea, Min-ho Lee stood with his neighbors, all dressed like simple village people. They carried old-looking tools and wore rough clothes, but Min-ho knew each person around him was a trained soldier. He had fought in wars on distant planets, commanded starships, and seen technology beyond Earth's atmosphere. But today he was just a village leader, afraid of strange lights in the sky. Remember, Minho whispered to the others. Act scared. Act simple. Let them think we know nothing. The alien ship landed in a clearing near the village with a soft hum. Its metal surface was smooth and silver, unlike anything humans were supposed to have seen. The villagers gasped and pointed, some running to hide behind trees. Minho made sure to stumble backward, his face showing fear. 6 tall figures stepped out of the ship. The Velthari looked like humans but taller and thinner, with pale blue skin and large black eyes. They wore dark armor that seemed to bend light around it, making them hard to see clearly. Each carried weapons that hummed with energy. Their leader spoke in perfect Korean, his voice cold and mechanical. We are travelers from far away. We mean no harm to your people. Minho stepped forward, his hand shaking just enough to look real. Please, honored visitors, we are simple people. We have nothing you would want. The Velthari leader studied Minho with those black eyes. We seek certain individuals, scientists, people who work with advanced ideas. Have you seen any strangers in your area? Scientists? Minho looked confused. Sir, most of us cannot even read. We grow rice and vegetables. We know nothing of science. The aliens exchanged looks. One of them pulled out a device that glowed green and scanned the village. It beeped softly, showing life signs but nothing that looked like advanced technology. Very well, the leader said. We will search the area. Do not interfere. As the Velthari moved through the village, Minho pressed a small button hidden in his clothes. Miles away, every human military base received the same message. The hunt had begun. Dr. Jiwoo Choi sat in his laboratory in Seoul, working on equations that could change space travel forever. But he was not alone. Hyunwoo Nam, dressed as a simple research assistant, watched the monitors showing the aliens approach. Doctor, Hyunwoo said quietly, they will be here soon. Jiwoo nodded and saved his work to a hidden drive. The equations on his screen showed primitive calculations, the kind a human scientist might discover by accident. The real work, the technology that could move ships faster than light, was safely hidden. Are you ready? Jiwoo asked. I have been ready for years, Hyunwoo replied. He had trained for this moment, learned to fight enemies with advanced weapons using tactics they would never expect. The Velthari found the laboratory just as their intelligence had predicted. They moved through the building like shadows, their weapons ready. When they reached Jiwoo's lab, they found him alone, working late into the night. Dr. Choi, the lead assassin said, stepping from the darkness. Your research ends here. Jiwoo looked up, his face showing surprise and terror. Who are you? What do you want? You are developing technology that threatens the natural order. Humans must not advance too quickly. I don't understand, Jiwoo said, his voice trembling. I am just a theoretical physicist. My work means nothing. The Velthari raised his weapon, but something was wrong. The room felt different, as if they were being watched. One of the assassins turned toward a shadow in the corner, but found nothing there. Then Hyunwoo struck. He moved faster than the aliens expected, using techniques developed from studying their fighting styles for decades. His weapons, disguised to look primitive, cut through their advanced armor like paper. In seconds, 3 Velthari were down. The remaining aliens fought back, but they were confused. These humans were supposed to be helpless. Their intelligence said Earth had no advanced weapons, no trained fighters. Yet this assistant moved like a master warrior. Impossible, one alien gasped as Hyunwoo's blade found its mark. You are primitives. We are many things, Hyunwoo replied calmly. Primitive is not one of them. High above Earth's atmosphere, Daeho watched the heat signatures in the laboratory disappear one by one. His instruments showed similar patterns across the globe. Every Velthari team was meeting the same fate. He opened a channel to Admiral Daun Seo, hidden in a command center beneath the Pacific Ocean. Ma'am, the cleanup is proceeding as expected. Good, Daun replied. But this is just the beginning. The Council will send more when these teams fail to report. How long can we maintain the pretense? As long as necessary. Our colonies need more time to prepare. Our fleets need to be ready. Daun looked at the star map showing human settlements scattered across space, all hidden from Council detection. Ships that could challenge anything the aliens possessed were being built in secret factories. Warriors trained on hidden worlds were preparing for a war that would decide the fate of every species in the galaxy. The Council thinks we are insects, she continued. Let them keep thinking that. When they finally realize the truth, it will be too late. Back in the Korean village, Minho watched the Velthari ship take off, carrying no passengers. The assassins had vanished just like all the others, leaving only their empty ship to return to council space. He spoke into his communicator. Package delivered. All guests have checked out. Around him, the simple villagers smiled and began removing their disguises. Underneath their farmer clothes were uniforms, weapons, and technology that would have shocked the dead aliens. Earth remained forbidden, just as it had for 300 years. But not because humans were primitive. The real reason was something the Galactic Council was only beginning to understand, and by the time they figured it out, humanity would be ready to show them exactly what they had been hiding in the darkness between the stars.